I normally start videos off by saying, are you tired of this happening? But I'm not gonna say this creature's name to anyone's liking. So I'm gonna find every common pronunciation, butcher them, and just use the one I want for the rest of the video. Here it goes. Giganotosaurus, 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 and that's how I'm gonna be pronouncing it for the rest of this video. With that out of the way, are you tired of this happening while taming a Giganotosaurus? My name's Sekorsa, and today I'll show you how to tame a Giganotosaurus, and if you stick around, I'll tell you a couple of neat things about tamed Giganotosaurus. First off, let's prepare. The food you're going to need in order from most effective to least effective. Exceptional kibble, raw mutton, raw prime meat, raw prime fish meat, cooked lamb chop, cooked prime meat. I would recommend using kibble or raw prime meat. It wouldn't hurt to have some cooked prime meat just in case. You'll need around 450 narcotics per hour during the tame. At a default taming rate, a level 50 can take between 1 and 5 hours, a level 100 can take between 2 and 8 hours, a level 150 between 2.5 and 11 hours. These times are the difference between the kibble and raw meat. You'll also want a more abundant food source for the Giganotosaurus to consume once it wakes up. Before I continue, I need to mention that it was recently announced that ARK will have a permanent 2-time taming multiplier on all official servers. So after that change, at a default taming rate, a level 50 can take between half an hour and 2.5 hours, a level 100 can take between 1 and 4 hours, a level 150 between 1 and 5.5 hours. These times are the difference between kibble and raw meat. You'll also want a more abundant food source for the Giganotosaurus to consume once it wakes up. The recipe for exceptional kibble is 1 extra large egg, 10 mijo berries, 1 rare flour, 1 focal chili, 5 fiber, and 1 water. At the level you can create a Giganotosaurus Saddle, you will also gain access to the shocking trank ammo. I'd recommend you exclusively use that ammo during this tame, as it has double the torpor damage as regular trank darts. The reason being is that a Giga's torpor stat is unmatched by any other creature. With a 100% damage long neck rifle, even one as low as level 20 can take 50 shocking trank darts. At level 100, that number increases to 150 shocking trank darts. At level 150, it can take upwards of 250 shocking trank darts. If you're attempting this solo, you will need a high weapon damage percent long neck rifle and will probably want a backup weapon in case your primary weapon breaks during the tame. They are also the most deadly creature you have access to tame. Their base damage and health is on the same tier as some bosses. Gigas are also surprisingly quick and definitely faster than you would expect. They are one of the fastest creatures in the game. And all of this doesn't even include that they have abilities beyond their base stats. Their main attack has a bleeding debuff that causes whatever was hit to lose 1% of its max health every second for 5 seconds, refreshing every time it hits. I haven't even talked about rage yet. If you're attempting to tame a Giga, this should not come into effect. In essence, a lot of damage in a short time frame causes a Giga to rage, and rage mode can cause their damage to practically double. I find that it isn't easy to trigger this in a wild Giga, but keep it in mind. I have several methods to attempt to tame a Giga, and I'm organizing them in order of perceived risk and ease of tame, the first being the most risky and difficult, the last being the easiest and most safe. You're going to want a fairly quick and tanky mount, something you can wield weapons while riding. You might be able to get away with something like a raptor, but something with a higher base health like a Thyla, or something with a higher base speed like a Gallimimus might be preferable. Use your best judgment here and make sure it's statted for speed and stamina with some health. My preference here is going to be a Gallimimus with a slight amount of added speed and a whole lot of stamina. Outpace the Giganotosaurus while hitting it with your trank ammo. I'm gonna say it, this idea, while it could work, won't. If the Giga ever catches your mount, it will deal a significant amount of damage, and it's quite difficult to trank at a high enough rate while attempting this solo. Another approach is to use a flyer to stay away from the jaws of death that is the Giga. If you're attempting this solo, the only mount really available to you is a griffin, which also has a passenger slot if you have health. You could attempt this with a platform Quetzal, but that method works better with a taming partner or two, especially since the sprint speed of a Quetzal is slower than a Giga. The last option is a Tapahara, which has 2 passenger seats on the saddle. The only drawback here is the driver cannot use weapons. With some fiddling, it is possible to drive a Tapahara from a passenger seat with the move here whistles, but it can be unreliable close to the ground. Regardless of the flyer you choose, you'll need to chase the Giganotosaurus while pelting it with your trank ammo. Again, this has the same difficulties as the last method. It's very difficult to move a mount and maintain a high rate of tranking, especially while solo. Now we're getting into a method that's marginally safer. Find a tall cliff, a huge rock, or build a tower that's 10 to 15 pillars tall. It needs to be this tall because Gigas are tall. You'll need to be careful here as Gigas can destroy all materials up to metal, meaning they cannot damage metal. If you're using a wooden or stone pillar, they may destroy it and cause you to fall to your death. This method is only safer than flying if you're using a metal pillar. Otherwise, it's probably the most dangerous method I'm presenting. Regardless, you'll need to pelt the Giganotosaurus until it starts to run away from you, then you'll need to chase it down. This is sometimes just not reliable because the creature AI runs away if it can't reach you, and the creatures will sit right at the edge of your range with a rifle. And if it's running away due to this, they'll just turn around and eat you. Going one step further, you could make a trap. You'll want a 4x4 box that is 3 walls tall with a ramp up one side of it. Any shorter than this and the Giga will just walk right over it. As I said before, Gigas can destroy stone, so make sure you can knock it out fast or be ready to use metal to make the trap. If you're willing to use metal on a trap, it might be better to use your resources to make a reusable trap out of metal gateways and a single metal behemoth gate. Place a large bear trap in the center of your trap and lure the Giganotosaurus into it, making sure not to step on the bear trap yourself. Once the Giga's triggered the large bear trap, circle back around and close the behemoth gateway. Now you can knock out the Giga at your leisure. I want to say the only way I was able to reliably knock out a Giga solo was with a trap. It moves around too much otherwise and recovers torpor faster than I could deal it. With more people, some of the other methods I mentioned might be more viable, but for someone who's solo, trapping it may be your only option. Whichever way you decide to use, pelt the Giganotosaurus with trank ammo until it's unconscious. Put your food of choice and narcotics in its inventory, and maintain its torpor so it doesn't wake up until it's tamed. If this video was helpful, make sure you like and share it. Your support really helps out the channel. Now for the neat facts that I promised earlier. This isn't quite a neat fact, as it is a necessary one to mention. Tamed Gigas get a huge nerf compared to their wild counterparts. The base health for a wild Giga is 80,000, while the base health for a tamed Giga is 17,000. The base damage for a wild Giga is 500, while the base damage for a tamed Giga is 100. Even while nerfed, the Giga still has some of the highest stats for a tamed creature. Giganotosaurus Saddle can be learned at level 96 and can be crafted in a smithy with hide, fiber, and metal ingots. Their primary attack is a bite attack, which has a bleeding debuff, which causes the target to lose 1% of their max health every second for 5 seconds. This debuff is refreshed after every hit. Their secondary attack is a roar, which causes fear in nearby unallied survivors. Giganotosaurus can gather raw prime meat, raw fish meat, hide, keratin, and chitin at the same or better rate than metal tools. Gigas also have a special stat known as Rage. You can see this in the top right corner under their stats. As the Giga takes damage, this heart fills up. Once it's fully filled up, the Giga enters Rage mode and kicks their rider off. At this point, they're basically in an aggressive stance and will attack everything around them, allied or not. The rage buff typically lasts for about 20 seconds. Also, if there's more than one tamed Giga, the rage mode will spread until all the Gigas are enraged. I never saw this mechanic while testing and trying to provoke it, but people claim it can happen. Looking at it on a more technical side, the rage meter is filled based on the raw damage taken as a percentage of the Giga's max health divided by 0.5. Each time the Giga takes damage, this equation is calculated and added to the rage meter. There are no visible numbers on the HUD for the rage meter, so it's difficult to say how fast it decays. I can say with some certainty that if the Giganotosaurus doesn't take damage for several seconds, the rage meter does reset. I can also say with some certainty that if the Giga takes 45% of its maximum HP instantly, it will rage. I can also say with some certainty that if the Giga is taking sustained damage, it will rage about the time it hits 50% health, sometimes lower, often dying before it will rage. This indicates that there is some decay on the rage meter, but with no visible numbers on the HUD, I can't say anything for certain. Giganotosaurus hearts can be found in the inventory of a dead wild Giga and can be used as a tribute to summon bosses. You can make exceptional kibble with Giganotosaurus eggs, along with 10 mijo berries, 1 rare flower, 1 focal chili, 5 fiber, and 1 water. There's a bionic costume for the Giga, which is a reward for killing any boss on the center map on any difficulty. There's a skeletal form of the Giganotosaurus, which first appeared in the Fury Evolved events 2 and 3. They're untamable and highly aggressive. Upon killing it, you can collect a Giganotosaurus bone costume, which was also obtainable during the archaeology event. There's a corrupted form of the Giganotosaurus, which first appeared on the Extinction expansion map. They are untamable and highly aggressive. There's a corrupt Dinotaur form of the Giganotosaurus, which first appeared in Genesis Part 1 expansion. I cannot find information verifying if it is currently in use or not. There's a tech form of the Giganotosaurus, which first appeared in the game files after the release of the Genesis Part 1 expansion. It's currently unused and doesn't seem to persist through a game shutdown and reload. There's also a malfunctioning form of the Tech Giganotosaurus, which showed up after the release of Genesis Part 1 expansion. Again, it appears to be unused. That's all I've got for today. Thank you guys so very much for watching, and have yourselves a very good day.